Welcome to episode 6 of The Witching Hour. Six. Haleigh, we're up to 6. I'm Perri, and this is my wonderful co-host, Haleigh Fouch.
Hey, guys.
Always excited for our hour of horror talk every week. This really has been such a treat, and got to say another thank you to everybody out there supporting the show, because it means a lot to us. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast.
So much. Yeah, it's my favorite thing every week. And then interacting with you guys just makes it last a little longer.
Yeah. So, boy, do we have a lot to cover today. But before we even jump into our main topics, I guess you could call them, of the day, we're talking about our first horror movie experiences and also giving you a little bit of a fall preview that's going to include a whole bunch of festival experiences, festivals that have already passed, but also festivals that are coming up real soon. We got a little special treat. Some of you know I'm really looking forward to the movie Hellfest. Haleigh, I believe you are too?
Yes.
Yeah, you are. And we've got a giveaway. What is this giveaway?
Yeah, guys, we're excited. So we have a couple of tickets to give away to Six Flags Fright Fest. And so we've got 2 tickets for you guys, either LA, New Jersey, or Chicago location. And what we want you guys to do to go in for the tickets, like the channel, leave a little comment for us, and just say in the comment you're entering for the giveaway. And we will get back to you with the winners very shortly. And
we will find you.
We will find you. And we will reward you for your loyalty with 2 tickets to Fright Fest.
I freaking love amusement parks.
Yes.
Growing up, I must have gone to Six Flags Great Adventure, which is the New Jersey location, like God knows how many times. My parents used to drive them nuts just because I always wanted to go to a theme park, whether it was Disney, whether it was Universal, whether it was Six Flags. So as much as I want those tickets all for myself,
we can't have them.
No.
But yes, I feel you. I grew up in Orange County, so theme parks were obviously my business. Disneyland was my home away from home, and I'm so excited. I'm going to the Universal again this year in Orlando.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
They have so many cool mazes.
I'm so jealous. This will be my 3rd year at the Hollywood version of Halloween Horror Nights, and this year, I don't know if we're doing any like official press coverage of that, but my sister and her husband, they're flying in around that time. So we're going to just go crazy and spend all that money on the VIP things.
Heck
or where you can do the front of the line stuff. And
excuse me, I believe it's RIP.
Is that what it is?
I think it is.
That's so
That's
clever.
what it was last year.
So we're just going to go crazy and buy those passes and just knock every single maze out in a single night. But
that's the way to do it.
I've actually never been to the Six Flags on this coast, which when I tell people that and I tell them how much I love roller coasters, they're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, we got to go.
Well, I don't think you can go to this, but I'm going because I think you're going to be away. Is in addition to this giveaway and hopefully more Hellfest coverage we're having, I'm going to go to that junket, which is being held there, and I'm gonna go. Dorian's gonna come with me. We're gonna ride some of the rides, and we're gonna get some cool interviews. So I'm counting down until I can get my butt in those roller coasters because I need roller coasters in my life.
It's
all the
spooky
time.
Season, y'all.
I am so pumped. Speaking of spooky season, I mean, there's a reason the two of us look forward to spooky season and horror movies every single year, and I would think it has a little something to do with our first experience with horror movies. And let's just kind of jump right into this. Do you want to give your first, or do you want me to give my first?
I want you to go because I'm genuinely curious.
All right.
We didn't talk about this beforehand.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised just casually outside of the recording studio. We've never had this conversation. So my first horror movie ever, and it was the first movie that I vividly remember it truly terrifying me, was Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which in adult years I realized it's actually a horror comedy and it's not that scary. It's kind of fun. But I remember, I mean, really, I must have been something like 5 years old because I had this one friend, and I vividly remember like who she is, what her house was like, and also growing up, we stayed close friends. And a lot of the times where I remember my first time watching that specific horror movie, it was probably at her house, but we must have been in kindergarten at that point. And I remember sitting in her living room, and the two of us just sat there and watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And I walked away with a fear that like I was going to be in a bubble and they were going to sip my blood or whatever they do in that movie. And yeah, it really, really scared me, and it really stuck with me. I never wound up with a fear of clowns or anything for that reason. It's just, that was also, not only was it my first time watching a horror movie, but it was the first time I vividly remember a movie sticking with me to that extent, where it's like, you know, when sometimes you just stop doing and you're just sitting and a thought immediately comes to mind. After watching that movie, that first thought to come to mind was very often Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I love that. And you were so much younger than me.
Oh, yeah. I watched a lot of stuff way too young.
I was not allowed to watch anything as a kid. Like, I remember sitting on the stair banister and listening to my dad watching like rated R thrillers, like murder thrillers that were so popular in the 90s. I wasn't allowed to watch anything. So it was a sleepover where I got my first experience, and it was a twofer. First, we watched Arachnophobia, which was like, yeah, it was spooky, but it was fun.
When I was little, I liked that movie.
Yeah, and I was fine. I was like, that was great. I had like some chills. And then they put on Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors, which like ruined me. I think I was about 10, but I was not okay. I remember they put on Junior afterwards to try to lighten the mood, because like I think
what a shift.
The parents
what a triple feature.
I know, right? The parents could see they maybe had allowed something a little too far for some of us that weren't their children, and so we're like, here's a funny movie. And I mean, just being 10 and here like, welcome to prime time, bitch. I was like, what? You can't say that. And now it's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's interesting to think about like it's interesting to think specifically how we had different experiences too, in a way where like, I don't think I was ever put off by Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I think that movie being stuck in my head and having scared me, it was almost like planting the seeds of that adrenaline rush. And, you know, speaking of theme parks too, it's that kind of adrenaline rush, and also the thrill of seeing a horror movie that I kind of got addicted to that feeling.
For
and
sure.
I feel like that was the first seed that was planted in that movie. So being really afraid of what you saw, was there like a break period where you're like, no more of this for a little while?
I had nightmares, but I wanted more. It was not more nightmares, but more of the movie or movies like that. The nightmares were terrifying, but it was very much the same thing. Planted a seed that blossomed into a career.
I think the first nightmare-inducing movie I really remember is I had a lot of nightmares about Poltergeist after I saw that.
Do it.
So I had two friends growing up that whenever I went to their house, we would watch, you know, movies that most kids couldn't watch. And this was the other friend. And I vividly remember watching Poltergeist for the first time with her. And also, actually, I told this story briefly on Mailbag, because one of our Mailbag questions was, have you ever, actually, I'm curious to get your answer to this too. Have you ever been so afraid of a movie that you turned it off? And the example I used was Fear, because I love Fear now, but when I watched it for the first time, I was way too young. It was the middle of the night and I was having a sleepover with a friend, and it hits the point where, spoiler alert, the dog head comes through the door and it falls off, and I vividly remember the two of us screaming on the top of our lungs and me racing to the TV and pressing the power button.
Oh, I mean, that's classic Perri. If it's an animal, you're gonna have a problem.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I can't deny that.
I actually told you guys on one of our last episodes about a movie that I had to pause. I didn't turn it off, but 47 meters below really got under my skin because it really triggered a phobia of mine. Otherwise, there's nothing I can remember that I like turned off and walked away. I really wanted to turn off Lake Mungo, which just scared.
I've never seen it.
Perri, that movie.
Lake Mungo.
Like, honestly, really is one of the few that, and it's not even that old. I was a full-grown adult hardened horror fan when I watched it, and I went outside afterwards to go have like a little smoke on my porch before bed, and I went outside. I was standing in the dark, and our backyard porch is raised, so there's like space beneath you in the ground, and I was just like, you know, fuck this. I'm going back to bed. I was just deeply unnerved and upset.
Is it like I mean, not jump scares, but
No,
so I'm
it's the
on the
opposite of jump
I'm on the
scares.
Lake Mungo IMDb page now, and it's a god awful description of the movie because it really doesn't sell anything at
Yeah.
all. It strictly says a supernatural drama about grief.
Accurate but boring.
So is it like a supernatural drama about grief to the point that it's like disturbing and upsetting?
So like I feel like when you hear a supernatural drama about grief, right now I think of Hereditary, and it's nothing like Hereditary. It is a very slow, methodical. It's a fake documentary about a family who lost a daughter. She drowned in Lake Mungo, and you start to see in the documentary that maybe their house is haunted. And I'm not going to reveal any more because it takes a lot of really interesting twists and turns along the course of that documentary. Air quotes documentary, but there's a point in the film that for most people who have seen it and love it just go like, no, fuck that. Like, that is so scary and upsetting. How dare you do that to me? But also respect. I've never seen it before, what they do. It really, really bothered me. And even before that point in the film, just when they're showing like the haunting in the documentary, these slow zooms into creepy things shouldn't be scary, but somehow it is. It should be so boring, but it's not.
See, I hear that, and I'm tempted to watch it just to see how I can react. But it's the grief element that's getting stuck in my head because, I mean, you well know I'll watch any horror movie with, like blood, guts, violence, like scary demons, all that stuff. And, it bounces right off of me. I enjoy the thrill out of seeing that. What scares me more so than anything are really, like, heavy dramas about families.
This would fall into that category.
Like, the way many people out there react to horror movies and like just not wanting to watch it and to feel those feelings, that's how I feel about really sad stories about
what
families.
I always say the same exact thing. And like where people get nightmares from horror movies, I get like week-long sads from dramas. I'm just not right for a week.
I'm the same way. And it's, I can't say what I saw recently, but I did see a family drama recently where, it got all of the tears and all of the emotion out of me. And I can recognize the fact that was it earned it. That was a well done movie, but I never want to watch it ever again. So yeah, I guess we respond more so to that stuff than we do the pure terror that many experience from horror movies.
I don't know what that's about. I remember watching some TV show, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something, where they did a test on Eli Roth's brain. And basically it showed that he was like so sensitive that when it showed overtly gory, horrific things, his brain just stopped. It was like, I'm not responding to this. So maybe we're like that.
Wait, what is this called? Because I think I have this.
I don't know what it's called. I remember this vaguely from like years ago, but we should Google it.
Oh man,
yeah, but like
I'd be interested in looking into that.
It wasn't that he was immune to things. It was that he was so sensitive that his brain just like maxed out when things got really violent.
Interesting. I always thought about it like I'm so sensitive to the real, and not that every single horror movie out there can't have a real life component to it, but I'm so sensitive to like the real, more likely terrible things happening in my life that when I see like crazy terrible things happening in a movie, like I just don't feel that fear as much.
It depends. I mean, like, I definitely felt a lot of fear with Hereditary, and I'm not, there's a lot of things in that are very extra.
Yeah. Do you have like real fears? Like my fear of bees?
Yeah. Snakes and underwater.
Okay.
Or big spaces of water. Snakes I don't party with, and don't ever think you're going to be cute and like surprise me with a snake, because I'll cry and shake and you'll be like, oh, that wasn't funny at all.
Has anyone ever done that to you? What happened?
I cried and shaked and ran away.
Did the person feel bad?
Oh my God, yes, she was so sweet. Her name was Julie. Hi, Julie, I love you, I miss you. She was a very dear friend of mine in high school, and she like, it wasn't even a real snake, it was a fake snake, and she like made a noise and touched my leg. And I full on freaked out.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't party with snakes.
I don't think anyone ever did anything like that to me. I mean, my fear is bees and the dentist, but I mean, you can't really surprise anyone with like a fake bee or something,
dentist.
or a fake dentist. Oh.
Surprise, Perri, root canal.
That might be something. It's like I think like the worst practical joke anyone could ever play on me is if my dentist at the end of a cleaning was like, yeah, things look okay, but you need a root canal. I actually might drop dead in the chair if that's what happened.
So funny. You're very lucky. You must have great teeth.
I think the fear comes from having grown up with weak enamel, because I'm convinced that my fear of the dentist comes from the fact that when I went to a pediodontist as a kid, I would remember if I had to have a cavity filled and I got an injection of Novocaine. I am convinced I was only ever given the paint on Novocaine, so I really felt pain, and that's why I'm afraid of the dentist now.
That makes sense.
I think that's the case, but because of all of that, I grew up just being neurotic about my teeth. So
sure.
I keep my teeth very clean.
Nice. I think I was a child when I had my first root canal. Yeah.
I grew up for so long being so paranoid about the day that was going to eventually come when I had to get my wisdom teeth out. That was a major,
Did you have to do it?
I had nightmares about that for a long, long time until the day actually came. Yeah, I did do it. I mean, they completely put you out. Yeah. So that makes it a little easier, but when I this is a terrible story, when I actually came back to, you still feel the effects of the pain medication, and I'm like, all right, this is going to be fine, and they give you a painkiller, so when that wears off you can then take a painkiller, and I had never taken a painkiller in my life, so it wore off, and eventually I took one of the pills, and a couple of hours later, within the prescribed dosage, I wouldn't say I was in a ton of pain, but if I was allowed to take painkillers, I'm like, I'll just take one more. And so I took one more, and then I woke up in the middle of the night, and I don't think my system was ready for it because I got violently ill. And then my fear of recovering turned into a fear of dry sockets, because if you get sick, something's going to happen.
You're so pure.
Thankfully, nothing happened, but that was a very unpleasant 24 hours of my life. Oh, all right. Now that everyone knows,
all our deep fears.
Yeah. What really keeps us awake at night. I think with our festival and fall coverage, we should start off with the one that actually happened, and North Bend Film Festival.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you tell everybody what exactly North Bend is first?
I would love to. I went to North Bend Film Festival last weekend, which will be the weekend before when this airs. It is in North Bend, Washington, which is a small town that is mostly famous because that's where they did the exteriors for Twin Peaks. So it's very foggy and misty and beautiful and trees everywhere. And, the first stop we went to was the diner and had some legit ass diner food.
As a girl who grew up on Long Island, you instantly get me with good diner food.
Oh, yeah, good, bad, but good diner food.
There's no good diner food in LA, which is a very sad realization I've come to since I've moved here.
That's true.
Isn't it?
We have Mel's, but it's not even that good.
It's not the same.
It's just an icon.
It's not the same.
So, yes, it's wonderful. That's sort of the hook, is that it's where they filmed Twin Peaks. But the real hook is the quality of the programming. It's a smaller festival. It was their first year. I wasn't sure what to expect. They, across the board, programmed such interesting content. There wasn't anything I saw that I was like, trash movie, why is it here? And I feel like at most festivals, there's usually one or two where you're like, are they friends with someone?
I'm pretty sure I can name at least one from every single festival I've ever covered.
I didn't see anything there. It was all really, even if they weren't movies for my taste, I was like, oh, I get it. It's quality. It's not for me. Really good stuff. And so the things that I saw that I was really excited about, it wasn't a horror festival, I should say that.
Okay,
so it's more of a broad genre, avant-garde festival kind of. The closest thing they had to an outright horror film would be Piercing, the new film from Nicholas Pesk, who did Eyes of My Mother. I loved Eyes of My Mother. I know it was a little divisive for people, but I really loved it, and so I was really excited to see what he was up to. And man, Piercing is my jam.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did that play somewhere else too?
Yeah, where was
I
it?
feel like someone else. Oh, I think it was at Sundance. That's where I was hearing about Piercing.
So that was way my jam, 100%. It's about this guy who just knows he has to kill somebody or he's going to like kill his family or something. So he hires a hooker, but the hooker is not an easy victim. She's got weird ass kinks of her own, and they just have this wild, very twisted, ultimate BDSM courtship of people who might be trying to kill each other. It's very interesting and weirdly sweet and very weirdly sexy, and they're amazing. I loved it.
Christopher Abbott is way underrated.
He's good.
He's so good in every single thing he's in, and it just feels like he is like so far away from well-known A-lister right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that dude is talented.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before I think he gets into like an award season conversation. It's just a matter of like aligning himself with the right project.
I'd like to be like, Piercing's going to be the one to put him in the spot. I don't think this is that movie, because a lot of people, like as much as I loved it, a lot of people are not going to feel that way.
Okay. It sounds a little intense.
It's a little twisted. It's very stylistic. It's like a throwback to Giallo. He even like Pesk had the balls to throw in some Argento music cues, and I was like, "Ooh, can you use the Deep Red theme? I guess you can." But that was great. Another one that was really interesting was called Braid, which is another one that's just going to divide the heck out of people. It's like this.
Madeline Brewer.
Yeah, she's like turning into a genre queen. I love it.
Yeah, she's really crushing it lately.
Yeah, she. So it's these three girls who grew up together and had this sort of twisted game of make believe, and then as adults, they have to go back to her house. She's full out crazy, and she's rich as hell. And these two other girls are in trouble with the law, and they need her money. So they go back, and they have to play the game of make believe to get into her house to try to find the money. It's so weird. And then
I want to see this.
Then it doesn't make any sense at all. And so for some people, that'll be a deal breaker. For me, I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but I like it. And then the last one I would flag for the horror, there was a lot of great content there, but I'm just sticking to the horror stuff, was Anna and the Apocalypse, which I've talked about before. Zombie Christmas teen musical. Absolute delight. It was my second time seeing it, and I think it played even better with this crowd. Like, people were in stitches, and then they were crying when they were supposed to be crying. It's just a really, really good music with really catchy songs.
I've been hearing just the best about that one ever since I believe it debuted at Fantastic Fest last year.
It did indeed.
Yeah, and now it's got a November 30th limited release, so everyone will be able to find somewhere to see it.
And I can't wait to have the music on my phone.
Yeah.
I want to listen to the song so bad.
I'm really looking forward to that. I remember when what was that other horror musical that came? Stage Fright. Stage Fright. Stage Fright is really good.
I liked it.
But I get the feeling that Anna and the Apocalypse might be a little more polished than what Stage Fright was.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Stage
really
Fright
good.
is still a fun watch, especially like a weekend watch with a beer in hand.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
The other difference I will say is the songs. Like, I enjoyed Stage Fright, but none of the songs were stuck in my head for weeks after. I've had songs stuck in my head from Anna the whole year since I saw it at Fantastic Fest.
Oh, I can't wait to have those songs stuck in my head.
They're so good. And you have a very exciting festival coming up.
So that was North Bend, and the next one on the lineup is the big one. It's TIFF.
Yeah.
I'm just beyond excited to go back because, you know, once I went with Steve, Matt, and Adam, I think it was 2015. It was the year that Green Room was there, and I went largely to cover the Midnight Madness lineup. And it's just such, I really think this of pretty much every horror film festival I've ever been to is just like the community and the vibe in the theater is so strong. It's like a lot of times our job at festivals is made easier by getting to go to press and industry screenings or getting a link. But the TIFF Midnight Madness lineup, it's really important to me to experience as many of these as possible in a packed house, in a crowd. And I'll just get the obvious ones out of the way first. I actually don't think The Predator is a Midnight Madness movie officially, but that is one that I will get to see, and you will get a review of that on the main Collider Video YouTube channel and also on Collider.com. I think I am writing that review.
Nice.
So you have all of that to look forward to. I'm also doing the junket for that one, so I'm really excited to get to talk to like Shane Black and all the other.
Awesome.
And like that whole ensemble is kind of
great.
incredible.
I want
so
all your weird Thomas Jane stories.
I hope I
them to
can.
me.
I hope I can get some. So actually, this will go up before I do that. I'm thinking about playing some Would You Rather with them because I love that game because it gives me the opportunity to ask unusual questions about the experience of making that specific movie. But then I also get to have fun with it because I don't show this to you yet, but we're going to talk about The Nun in a future episode. But I went to Mexico City to do that junket, and one of the questions that I asked Damien Bashir was, would you rather, because his character in that movie, you've seen this in the trailer, he's buried alive at a point. Okay. Would you rather be buried alive or would you rather die by chestburster? So which is essentially like, would you rather starve in a box or would you rather have like a super painful but like quick and speedy
chestburster?
Yeah.
And it's cooler.
Yeah. He didn't say it was cooler, but I'll spoil that part of the interview. Like we eventually talked it through, and it's like, well, the logical answer is really chestburster.
Yeah, for sure.
So that one is a big one on my list, and obviously so is Halloween. I mean,
of course.
Did you ever think that we would be in a time where a new Halloween movie is debuting at the Toronto International Film Festival?
Pretty crazy.
It really is crazy, and it's just
for them.
With everything we've seen and heard so far, it really does seem to me like Halloween isn't just going to be a good installment in the Halloween franchise. I'm getting the feeling like this really could be a good film, period, across the board. Like it could really mean something beyond what it means to that franchise. And you know, it's scary to go into something you care so much about with sky-high expectations like that, but I just have this good feeling in my gut that this is going to make do on those.
I'm dangerously excited.
Yeah, I think I'm in that same category right now. A couple other ones on the midnight lineup that I'm going to get to is I am going to see Assassination Nation.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of a Purge vibe to it. That trailer has definitely caught my eye.
That one was at Sundance too, right?
Yeah. That one was at Sundance. I don't think any of the guys got to it there, but just in case you want to know the basic synopsis, it's from IMDb. This is 1,000% a true story about how the quiet, all-American town of Salem absolutely lost its mind. So, apply that idea to a little bit of a Purge type feel, and you'll get that one.
I heard, I think it was one of the filmmakers or stars described it as if the comment section came to life and started attacking you.
You know what? This sounds like a movie that might give me nightmares.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see that in a packed house, and I can't wait. The other one I've got here is The Standoff at Sparrow Creek. I actually don't know all that much about this movie, except the synopsis is a former cop turned militiaman investigates a shooting at a police funeral. That's the other thing about going to a festival as press and being assigned a specific lineup. It's even if something's not on your radar, it then has to be because your responsibility is that lineup. And it's got a James Badge Dale in it, who I think is another very underrated actor. He always delivers, and he still doesn't feel like that big of a household name to me, and I think he should. So I'm looking forward to that one. And the last one I want to highlight right now is a movie called The Wind. So this one is a supernatural thriller set in the western frontier of the late 1800s, and it stars Caitlin Gerard, who we last saw in Insidious: The Last Key, as a plainswoman driven mad by the harshness and isolation of the untamed land. It's got a female director, which always gets me pumped. Emma Tammy is her name, and I believe this is her feature directorial debut, but the idea of pairing supernatural with like Western in the 1800s, that right there is all I need. That combination really piques my interest, because I don't think we really see too many period pieces, or at least Western specific pieces that incorporate a horror vibe, or at least not very often. I mean, I guess the last movie that comes to mind is Bone Tomahawk, but that sounds completely different compared to this.
There was one last year I didn't see, but I heard a lot of good. Five Fingers of Marseille.
Oh, I never saw that, but I'm vaguely aware of that.
Yeah, it was at Fantastic Fest. It had good word of mouth.
Okay.
That's if you're looking for more Westerns, there you go.
Well, we'll see what happens with this lineup right here, but I am beyond pumped.
Yeah, I'm excited
I cannot wait to hit the road and get going. It's also been just so long since I've gone to a film festival. I think I think the last film festival I went to was my last South by Southwest right before I moved to LA.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Normally I made a habit of going to specifically Tribeca South by very regularly every year, and New York Film Festival every single year. And then all of a sudden, ever since I moved out here, I don't know why, but
we don't
for whatever
have,
reason,
like Tribeca or New York Film Festival equivalents. Like we have Beyond Fest, which I'm excited they're doing Cronenberg this year.
Yeah. I mean, actually, so I guess I should take that back because it feels different. If you Beyond Fest and like even AFI Fest, I had seen a couple movies there, but it feels different. Those didn't feel like they had like the same community, or maybe in Beyond Fest's case, I wasn't going to enough regularly. I feel like I just went to like one or two and that was it. I don't know. Maybe it's also, it's like the idea of like, shooting on location versus at a studio. It's like the on location where you're kind of locked into that for an extended period of time gives you that vibe versus when you're working and you're going home at the end of the night. It's like you have a life outside of that.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. It feels like, for me, Beyond Fest, as much as I love it, I often feel like I've got to schedule this into my day.
Yeah.
Which isn't as fun as going for a few days to a festival.
Yeah. It's unfortunate to have that feeling, but I mean, like, that's just the nature of an LA-based festival, I guess. So now how about yours? Because I am extremely jealous of your next trip.
I'm so excited. I love it. It's one of my favorite things every year. I will be going to Fantastic Fest again. Yay! And their lineup is really killer this year. I mean,
I'd say so.
It's really, really good. And they're opening with Halloween, which,
smart move.
Obviously a good call. And they have two other really big titles that I'm super hyped about. The first one is Overlord.
Oh, I'm so curious about Overlord.
The bad robot World War II sci-fi weirdness movie.
I don't know what to make of that one. I forget what movie I was seeing, but one of the trailers that played before was for Overlord, and I think it's a fine trailer. It got a very mixed reaction from the audience, where it seemed like some people were super into it, and then I heard a couple people kind of grumble and be like, that doesn't look that good.
Well, it looks like that kind of a movie, and we'll see. Bad Robot has not been killed. Maybe I'm just thinking specifically of the Cloverfield paradox.
Yeah,
but
that
like
didn't pan out like I wanted it to.
I would like to see this be more of a return to form. I love Wyatt Russell. So
oh my God, Wyatt Russell.
Yes.
I am a big Wyatt Russell fan.
Immediately interested. And it seems really cool, and I love a big budgety, weird ass sci-fi horror movie. Always into that. The other one that I just couldn't possibly be more excited for is Apostle, which is the new film from the director of The Raid and The Raid 2. It stars Dan Stevens.
Add Dan Stevens to the list.
Yeah.
I feel like I've made on this show like a whole bunch of wonderful men I admire.
Right.
Seriously, let's have like an ensemble movie with Christopher Abbott, James Badge Dale,
Yes. Dan Stevens, Wyatt Russell.
and Wyatt Russell.
I'm sold.
I don't care what it's about or what they're doing in that movie. I will watch it.
One ticket to The Lady in Red. I will watch that.
I feel like that's the title of like your autobiography or something.
Perfect. That's actually perfect. I'm going to put that in my notes. Yes, so this is Gareth Evans' The Raid follow-up. I mean, if you're anything like me, you've been very eagerly awaiting what he will do next. And this is more of a thriller horror-y vibe than straight-up action. It's about a man who goes to rescue his sister from a cult. And sign me the fuck up, to be perfectly frank.
I'm into that one.
So the other ones I'm really interested in, I mentioned before, I caught Cam at Fantasia and thought it was really solid. So I just want to highlight for anyone who's listening that might be going, be sure to make Cam a priority. It's really cool. And it has Madeline Brewer, who we talked about.
Yeah.
She's great.
Oh, yeah. So she can also join the little
she's in the
sausage
ensemble.
party we just made. She is wonderful, and she really crushed it in Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
She's incredible on that show.
She's so good. I remember the first thing I ever saw her in was Hemlock Grove.
Yep, I'm right there with you, and she does some weird things on that show.
She's just willing to go there, and I love that in a performer.
It was Hemlock Grove, and actually, I take it back. It was Orange is the New Black before Hemlock Grove, because she was in season 1 of Orange is the New Black.
I was late on that train.
I I wasn't late on the train, but I jumped off the train, and I keep meaning to jump back on the train, but I just don't have any time.
I rode that train for like 2 stops, and then
I rode it for 3.
Okay. But yeah, she's great. So go see Cam. And what else? So there's this film that I didn't catch at Fantasia, but got a lot of really cool buzz. And I didn't mean this to rhyme, but it's called. Oh, actually, it won't rhyme. It's called Lose. I always think it's Luz, but it's Lose. That movie is like a really stylized throwback sort of phantasm-y vibe going on. It's very 70s. It was shot on film, and it looks cool. I've heard good things. It's a new production or distribution company picked it up. I believe it's Yellow Ribbon, and I'm very excited about it because it was one of those films that I went into Fantasia knowing nothing about, and you just kept hearing the name come up over the days, and that to me is always the sign of a pretty good film you should pay attention to.
'Tis the magic of a festival.
Seriously. There's In Fabric, which I'm very hyped about. That's the new movie from Peter Strickland, and he is, if you're not familiar with his work, he's the guy who did The Duke of Burgundy, which is a delightful little kinky romance, and he also did Berberian Sound Studio, which was a very cool throwback film. Kind of gets under your skin.
Yes, it does.
I'm excited to see what he has in store with this one. There's another one that kind of trying to go through these a little quickly. This one is not horror, but if you have been listening to all the episodes of this podcast, you know my main man is Frank Grillo. So he has this new movie coming out called Donnybrook, and it's all about fighting, and Frank Grillo fighting is one of the best things we can ever do on film. So this one is about a guy. It's based on a novel that I saw was really quite well reviewed, so that's exciting. But it's about these 2 guys who compete in like this famous bare knuckle fight to win a big money prize.
Oh boy!
I can't wait. Frank Grillo fighting. And it has James Badge Dale.
Oh, that's funny. Who does he fight? Is it Jamie Bell that he fights?
I don't know because I haven't seen a trailer for it.
Margaret Qualley's in it. I like her.
Yeah, I like
Pat Healy. Pat Healy. Talk about another person that is not getting his due credit. Pat Healy is freaking awesome. Go watch every Pat Healy movie you could find. Like Cheap Thrills. Cheap Thrills is great.
Donnybrook, Don't Let Me Down. I'm
this
very
movie
excited.
Is a great cast.
Yeah. And it has Frank Grillo fighting. A+ immediately. And so there's one more that I wanted to highlight, and I don't really know anything about it, but it's called Starfish. And
I tried to look that up before we recorded because I saw it in your notes and I couldn't find it.
That's why I don't know anything about it, except that when I was at North Bend, this guy who is like in the know was saying that you need to see that movie and make it a priority. And
I wonder if I'm on the right IMDb page. It's with Virginia Gardner. Is that the one?
Couldn't tell you.
Directed by Al White.
Like I said, I can't tell you because I can't be sure.
I'm looking at the photo. It doesn't have like a release date. Like most of the times when a movie is accepted to a festival, under the release date part of IMDb, it'll have that date and then it'll have the festival in parentheses. There's nothing here for this one, but looking at it and giving the images under there a glance, there's a wildly disturbing one.
Okay.
There's a disturbing one. There's some interesting imagery here. I'll let you explore that for yourself. Do you want to hear the little logline?
If it's the right one.
A unique, intimate and honest portrayal of a girl grieving for the loss of her best friend that just happens to take place on the day the world ends we know it.
That's it.
So I'm going to let you guys scroll through those images on your own because they certainly do raise a lot of questions here. But
it was described to me as in the vein of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but horror. And I was like, oh, fucking sold. Like, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
All right, I'm into that.
So those are sort of the things I'm really excited going in, but there's always, you never know what's going to be the breakout. Yes, the secret screening is also a delight. And sometimes, 2 years ago, we got Split, and it was the premiere of Split, and that was incredible.
Are there any early predictions? Like, Are people talking about something?
There's always early predictions, but they're usually wrong.
Suspiria?
Yeah, Suspiria is a prediction, but I doubt it because it'll have. You never know because last year's was. Dang it! The Death of Stalin, which had already screened somewhere else. So some people are predicting Suspiria. That's a very popular one. Bad Times at the El Royale is a popular prediction.
That seems like a good Fantastic Fest play to me.
Great. But
What
you never
studio
know.
is that movie?
I want to say Fox, but I also don't want to be wrong on air.
I don't know. For some reason, I think I also specifically brought that up because, I mean, you guys don't know these behind the scenes details, but one of my favorite PR companies is the one that heavily works on Fantastic Fest, and I just feel like the company funds PR promoting a movie like Bad Times at the El Royale could just be like this match made in heaven kind of thing.
It would be perfect, but it is Fox.
Okay.
Yes.
Fox has a great PR team too.
We love you guys.
Yeah, Fonz has been quite wonderful to us for many years.
Yeah,
so they're a good team over there. What about some of the other, I'll call them like extracurricular activities you could do at Fantastic Fest? Because that's another reason why I want to go so bad. It's because when I talk about a horror festival or genre festival community, it always at least appears to me that it's stronger than ever at Fantastic Fest with all the pre-festival social media buzz. And then when I see pictures of just these crazy activities you guys get to do.
Yeah, Fantastic Fest has a lot going on in. It's to the point that it's like impossible to make everything. But like, for example, on closing night party, they do tattoos. I have one, my little Zilla.
I don't know if I would be able to say no to that.
That's kind of what happened.
I would walk in with the rule that, because so correct me if I'm wrong. It's like a sheet with a couple of options.
There are like 6 or so.
6 options. So it's like I would go in with the mentality of you're not doing it unless it's one you really love.
Right. Well, it was Godzilla, so like sold.
I don't know. I would be caught up in the heat of the moment where I feel like even if I didn't 100% love something and I just like 75% love something, I would still do it.
It's a danger. There's also a lot of booze going around. But here's the thing. You have to make a choice early on because the line is outrageous. They choose like 20, 30 people who are guaranteed one, and then the other people have to wait in line.
Interesting.
Yeah, so,
okay.
Yeah.
That would keep my problem in check.
It helps. The year that I was in line for the Godzilla tattoo, I met some nice people who really wanted to share their cocaine with me. I don't do cocaine, but it was really nice of them to offer so often.
People at festivals are really just like inclusive and generous, and I mean,
that was fun. I shot my first gun at Fantastic Fest last year. This isn't like as much of a public thing. It's more like press and filmmakers. They take off to go shoot shotguns and stuff. That was really just like I wanted to fire a gun. I live in California. It's not really going to happen.
I don't think I've ever. I shot BB guns, I guess, in like sleepaway camp, and that was it. And I'm pretty sure like since then they get rid of that. Like that's not
probably not
that's
cool.
not an okay like kid camp activity anymore.
Not helicopter parent approved.
Definitely not.
But yeah, and so
what about the fights? Do they still do the fights?
Yes, they do. The debates. So the Fantastic debates are like you go up there. You debate something kind of nerdy and movie-like what is the best monster movie, or what's the best Rocky movie, things like that. And then after you do your verbal debate, the 2 opponents just beat each other up in the ring. They have an actual fist fight, like a boxing match. And sometimes it's really fun and easy, and then there are famous times where it was not.
Like taken too seriously?
If you Google, and this guy, whatever, we're not going to get into a site stuff, but Devin Faraci, Joe Swanberg beat the shit out of Devin because Devin beat the shit out of his movies in the verbal portion. It's a famous one. A lot of times they're a lot more friendly than that.
Oh, I will be watching this right after.
It's worth watching. So the debates are great. There's all kinds of stuff like that. They have something really, as I describe this, I'm feeling their brand so clearly come together. They have something called Puke and Explode, which is just the worst. Just the worst. It's it's an eating contest, but it's all the things that these people are eating are the most vile.
Like what?
Like pickled herring with something equally awful on top. And then you're supposed to, it's like a hot dog contest. You're supposed to eat this as fast as possible.
Here's another thing we were talking about recently on a mailbag episode. We're eating contests, and I think people underestimate me because I'm a little smaller, but I feel like I could crush an eating contest, but I would want to win like a pizza eating contest, not that.
Not puke and explode.
See, like I would have no desire to even participate in that.
I remember last year so while it was happening, I was standing outside actually with Erlinger and a couple of my friends, and they opened the door to air out the room.
No!
And we had to like leave the area we were standing in because the smell of the eating contest was so intense.
In addition to my fear of dentists and bees, I also have a fear of vomit.
You would not enjoy that aroma.
I would be unhappy. I'd be very unhappy there.
Most unpleasant.
Oh, that is something else.
Yeah.
If you had to pick like your absolute favorite thing about Fantastic Fest, what would it be?
My bros.
Okay.
It's the brohood.
Yeah.
Your friends. I love that you watch movies all day and then you talk about them all night with everybody and you drink a lot, but that's part of the fun too. And it's just the community. You get to see people. It's sort of like Comic-Con. There are people you only see there, and that's always fun. It's just great. It's a great vibe. Last year was different because it was sort of mired in, this was before Me Too, but it was like sort of the spark of the sexual assault conversation was really happening there. And so that was an even more interesting experience. It wasn't as fun and party and chaos reigns, but it was like, these are your bros and you're having real deal hardcore talks about really hard topics every time you leave the theater. It's a very valuable experience for me. So I'm very interested to see how this year feels in comparison.
Well, I can't wait until we get you back in LA and you can report back because I'm going to have a million questions.
So many reviews.
Before we close out this episode, we kind of wanted to weave in a little bit of a fall highlight because, we're here now. I feel like I've started to judge my movie seasons based on how Fantasy Movie League in particular stretches them out. And this this particular weekend is the last weekend of play in the summer season, and then we start the fall season. So there is one movie on my list that I would say, other than Halloween, is probably one of my most, if not the most, anticipated movie of the fall season genre-wise, and it's Hellfest. Yeah. I mean, I kind of get any kind of like, oh, why are you so excited about that one based on the trailer? Because I think the trailers have been really good thus far, but it's that last one that has me just a little bit concerned that they're playing too much into, some horror tropes, I guess I would say, where it feels more so like they're leaning on that super cool concept than adding, like a really creative spin on what that could be beyond just the basics. But you already heard about how much I love amusement parks. I love when amusement parks go into spooky mode for Halloween, and I love horror movies, but more specifically, I love the subgenre of slasher movies. So the fact that that's all coming together in Hellfest, like, my mind is just exploding with excitement. I can't wait to get sucked into that movie and see what they have to offer. And, to give the trailers a little credit, there are some I guess we can call them kill scenes or attack scenes that do have a little flavor to them, but I really want to see them dig into like the mental mindfuck of, holy shit, any person in this Halloween spooky haunted house thing could be a real killer. I don't want it to just be like, this is happening. They're going to get picked off one by one, and one will be left, like, over and done with. I want it to have, like, a little meat to it,
I hope so. I also really hope that they have done their, not due diligence, but really have given their all on the production design. Because when you're doing a movie in a theme park, like, that is such a golden opportunity, especially something that's on a Halloween night or a horror-ish night. It's I mean, that's part of why I love going to these mazes so much, is to see the production design actually in the parks that they come up with. So now when that's it's kind of a mirror looks at the mirror situation where it's like, you know, Halloween Horror Nights takes from movies to create a maze, but I want to see them take from maze to make a kick-ass movie.
Yeah. I'm a little lame when it comes to those mazes because I'm always the jerk that, you know, it's difficult to scare me in a haunted house thing, and especially because, like, you know, we've discussed, you know, that line you draw between, let's say, a maze along the lines of Halloween Horror Nights and then something that's meant to, like, really scare and scar you, like a Blackout. And, you know, when you're playing in that safer zone, it's really just jump scares that are going to scare you, and that's it. And I have grown pretty numb to them, so it's like I'm always like the lame person walking through those mazes being like, oh, the production design here is great. Like, your performance is so convincing. Like, I just appreciate being here right now. And, like, everybody else is screaming and having fun like that.
I mean, there's only so much that can be done at the pace with which you have to walk through those mazes anyway.
That's true, too.
I did have one year, I was there for press. This was in Orlando for their Walking Dead maze. They gave us an early walkthrough. And it didn't, you know how they have the people with the flashlights that sort of guide you through? Yeah. They weren't in there. And you weren't, you know, front and back surrounded by other patrons. So it was very effective. And we actually...
That I like.
It was very spooky, and we got lost. We legitimately got lost in the maze because there was no one guiding us through, and it's just really dark.
I want to get lost in a maze.
It was cool. It was also funny, though, because eventually we, like, wound up at a green exit sign, and we were like, oh, no, this is not the way.
Yeah, I've never had that kind of experience. There was one time when I did that Blackout at Overlook last year. Was it last year? Yeah, I think it was. It felt like that was forever ago, but... I'm not sure if it was like a light version of it, but I was like a little underwhelmed. Yeah. I liked the beginning. So it kind of goes to what you were saying about not being able to see someone like in front or behind you. It's like the interesting thing to me about something like Blackout is it's solely your experience. Like, you were just, in my case, like hurled into a hotel room where the actors were in there, but as far as participants go, it was just you. You were in it alone, and that instantly made it a little scary. But the part that I had a problem with was... The first half was very engaging and challenging you to, like, explore this spooky scenario, this spooky room, and kind of get to the next stage of the story. But then there's a part where you're taken out of the equation and you're just meant to sit there and watch something unpleasant happen. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, well, like, what's the point of this? Like, it was cool for a little, but now it's not. And
that's
I walked
where
out.
Our friend got removed, right? Because he
that,
didn't.
That he did. Yeah. And, you know, it was a decision I respected because, you know, the whole first half of the thing, you are encouraged to play along. And
Fully
then all
immersive.
of a sudden, you're just expected to sit there. And I understand why he did what he did. And, you know, he basically interacted with the actors when you weren't supposed to. And then house lights come up and his experience was over. And I didn't do that. And I made it until the end. But when I walked out, it's like... I got like a kick out of probably like 60% of it, but that 40% was so like unnecessary and unpleasant that I'm like, I never need to do anything like that ever again.
It's not for me. We, the wonderful publicist Brittany Sandler was who my point contact in North Bend, and she is obsessed with immersive experiences. Like, she is all about
like
immersive.
She'll do any of them?
Yeah, she loves them. But so we talked a lot about immersive over the weekend, and I heard different stories of a lot of different types of immersive, and some of them I was like, that sounds fucking awesome, and some of them I was like, I would never want that to happen to me.
Were you telling me about the documentary?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's another
one I would
That's
never.
Another thing on my watch list.
Haunters, the art of the scare. If you ever want to see an immersive, I don't know, depending on your personality, that you will never want to go to, or you will immediately want to go to.
I will watch that, but I am pretty certain that now that I've gotten my one little experience, and which I imagine is a way lighter version of whatever that is, I don't think I need to do anything like that again.
I don't remember the name of which one, and I wouldn't want to say it anyway because it kind of spoils it, but somebody was telling me there's one where they, like, the first thing they do is like immediately throw you on the throw you on the ground and then shoot the person next to you in the head, and like they have a squib.
Shit.
And I'm like, I don't want that.
I don't want that either.
Yeah.
I think with Blackout, the one thing that I was most nervous about that I heard about before I even went in was it's actually not like the super scary things. It's like the gross things. Like someone told me that in order to get to the next room, they had to put their hand in a toilet to get a key right after one of the actors threw up in it. And it's like deep down inside, I know that like that can't happen. There's certain rules they need to abide by, but I was really nervous for that kind of thing. Yeah. And sure enough, that was part of mine, where I don't think it was a key, but I think I had to get pills out of a toilet. But when the actress ran over, I saw like whatever the visual trick was. Like I know and it wasn't anyone's fault. It's strictly blocking, and I was just at an angle where I could see where the so-called vomit was coming from, and the second I saw that, I'm like, whoo, stick my hand in that toilet and get those pills.
We had kind of a cool, real quick immersive experience in North Bend. It wasn't scary per se, but it was really cool. They had a VR station, and one of the VR things was called the Annabelle experience, and it was a 3-card tarot reading, essentially. And it wasn't an algorithm necessarily. It was actually a woman on the other side of the VR who was reading your tarot for you. And so certain people who were picked were then brought to a cabin out in the woods where we met Annabelle in person, and she like took us on this sort of personalized, like witchy spiritual experience where we made a potion, and like it was pretty cool. And it wasn't scary. It was very much up my witchy little alley.
Yeah.
And my potion smells delicious.
Of course it does.
But there were these 2 other actors involved, this young couple that, like, while you were waiting for her or something, you would be sitting with them. And I think she intentionally sort of set it up to be a little creepy, because the first thing that happened was the young gentleman, like, took us out to the woods, and then Annabelle came out and was like, why would you trust a man to just walk you into the woods? And so it's like, okay, don't trust that guy. But I was set in the cabin with those 2 for like a good 10 minutes, just me and those 2 actors. And I was like, this is real murdery. Like, this is very murdery. Keep an eye on all the knives. You never know when this is going to go off the rails. But it was fun. And I think it was only meant to be just a whiff of creepy, not scary.
I like the sound of that,
Yeah,
though.
it was cool.
On our next episode of The Witching Hour, I'll talk a little bit about the immersive experience we got to go through in The Nun, but you'll have to tune in next week to catch that. Before we wrap up, though, we've got another fall arrival to hit, and I don't want to miss this one. What's your most anticipated?
It'll be no surprise to anyone, but Suspiria. Yes, witches.
Yes.
Give me the witches. Give me Tilda Swinton.
Give me Tilda Swinton. Give me Luca Guadagnino and his take on that.
Always. And I mentioned this before, I love that he's got this really exciting creative team behind him, his same cinematographer from Call Me By Your Name.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Dakota Johnson is such an exciting young actress who, like, she got labeled with the...
She got a bad rap because of 50 Shades.
Exactly.
It's just like the Kristen Stewart thing.
Yeah, and look what Kristen Stewart's doing.
She's fantastic.
Super exciting films.
Yeah.
And I think that Dakota Johnson is going to follow a similar path. I mean, she's also in Bad Times.
Yep.
I like her a lot. I think if you ever watch her interviews, she's got this really easy charisma about her. I think she's a really strong performer. And she also was in Luca's... goodness gracious me. The one before Call Me By Your Name.
A Bigger Splash?
Yeah, that's it. With Tilda, and I love that movie. All the creative pieces are there. I love that the word of mouth that's going around is really conflicted. That to me is exciting.
I was going to ask you about that.
I've heard really good things and I've heard really bad things.
Yeah. I'm pretty much, I don't know what to make of it right now. So I'm kind of just using the promotional materials to kind of gauge my excitement level. And I did really like that clip that just came out where she's kind of pulled to the floor there and you see what's brewing under there.
Yeah.
So I really dig that. The only thing that I don't want to say it put me off, but I think I just get frustrated industry-wise when things like this are put out there is the idea of a sequel already before anyone has ever seen what's to come.
I didn't even read that article. It's like, whatever. People are going to ask that question. You can't avoid it. There's precedent in the Three Mothers trilogy to have more than one connected film within this universe. So I'm not opposed to if he wants to go on and remake the other two, Three Mothers films, fine.
I think my negativity might just be coming from jealousy. That it's like, well, I didn't see it yet, so I can't have fun with this idea.
Yeah.
Neither can you.
Well, that's why I didn't read the article.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm making movie talk show notes, if like anything,
fair enough.
If anything piques my interest, even in the slightest, I read it. And that's how I decide what goes on the lineup.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't have to write up the news, so I was like, no, thank you, sir.
Yep. Oh man,
yes, Suspiria.
that's a lot of stuff right there, and I think we have hit our maximum today. we got to get out of here and go cover some film festivals. So I hope you were sitting with like pen and paper or your phone notes or something and writing all these titles down.
I want a report.
But yeah, I mean, even if you weren't writing them down, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we talked about today is stuff that we're going to see soon. And when I get back from TIFF, when Haleigh gets back from Fantastic Fest, you're going to have a full report on just about everything we named. So you have that to look forward to. Haleigh, it's really important that while we are at these festivals, we stay active on social media so people get our immediate reactions. So when you do that at Fantastic Fest, where can everyone find that info?
You can find me on Twitter at Haleigh Fouch, and you can find me on Instagram at Haystack McGroovy. And of course, all my reviews will be posting on Collider.com.
And you guys can catch all of my first reactions on my social media. Twitter and Instagram is both at pnemroff. Keep an eye on Collider.com for my written reviews. We're going to have a couple of reviews on the main Collider video channel, but also a lot of the other stuff is going to go on both Collider Quick, so make sure you are subscribed to that channel as well, and keep an eye on the Collider social media, because this time around I'm toying around with a new review format that I worked on with Thad. Thad did the graphics for it, and it's a way to get some quick thoughts out there, and I'm really excited about it, and I'm going to be editing those myself, which adds an extra level of excitement. So that's what we got coming your way. Hope you enjoyed this episode of The Witching Hour. Thank you so much for giving it a listen. We love you guys. You have officially survived The Witching Hour.